Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to my channel. And that channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. Yes indeed, it's therapy. It's your weekly therapy, folks. Thank you very much for joining me once again. Please relax, look at the timestamps. It's a long video, but roughly an hour. It's meant to entertain, inform, and provide you with some therapy as well. I can assure you that this is therapy for me. So I'm a little bit selfish when it comes to the weekly recap, but you know what? I enjoy doing it. It's going to be 4 hours of preparation, editing, etc., but it's worth every minute. It's early in the morning. It's about 4:30 Saturday morning. I'm preparing this on Saturday, so it will air on Sunday. My wife's out of town. It's quiet in the house. I've got my cappuccino. I've got my brown toast. And you know what? I'm set to go. Yes, we're going to look at some inks. We're going to look at some notebooks, some pens, look at what the market has to offer. You know what? There's lots out there. There's lots to talk about, so stay tuned. Here is the Fountain Pen Therapy weekly recap for February the 23rd, 2025. Okay, first segment, as usual, we'll take a look at the fountain pen market just to see what's out there. Again, another slow week, I would tell you guys. Not much there to report, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately, we spend less money. This is good. This is good. We get to use the pens we have, right? But you know me, I always find something, and I think I did. So let me go to my computer screen. I'll show you. First of all, in terms of Chinese pen market, what have I got for you? Well, I just want to pop up my notes here on my iPad. Okay. Not much. Really not much when it comes to fountain pens in the Chinese market. I haven't seen anything new. Maybe you guys have. Maybe just one. A couple of things. And I'm not sure I'm going to take the dive, frankly. Well, let me show you. So if we go to my computer and we'll go on AliExpress, here we go. I think I have to take the dive and buy at least one Jinao 10. I haven't done it. A lot of people have recommended the pen to me. I haven't done it yet. There's a lot of colors, a lot of new colors that have come out in different materials. I like this one, frankly. I like this kind of burgundy with this gold. So I'm going to order the fine, not the extra fine. So I might get one. So there you have it. It's in my cart. We'll see if that works out. The next thing that's been catching my eye, and this may be a new offering, it's this Dieman 6016 with the wood. I don't know I guess wood this year has become kind of a popular alternative. The only hesitation I have when I compare, and I will put up on the screen pictures of this 6016 and the Dieman CA35, I've got a feeling it's really essentially the same pen with the same type of nib. Just the scrolling on the cap is a little bit different, and the material, rather than being resin, I think it's resin on the CA35, maybe even some metal underneath. it's wood. So I'm not sure I'm going to frankly get this this new, if this is new. It looks like it is, but I'm not sure, frankly. I never saw it before. But there you have it. Next pen, Chinese pen that's kind of attracted my attention is this Tag Moon. This Tag Moon, it looks like this is an ebonite. They call it hard rubber, and I think hard rubber, the Chinese translation is ebonite. It's $81. I've seen it much more expensive with gold nibs. If you order it with the Bach, it's $81. If you order it with their nibs, it's still $81. With the Cologne nib, it's all the same. So you either order their nibs and it comes in extra fine to medium, or you order the Bach extra fine or fine. Different colors. They have it in red. They have it in this kind of blue yellow, which is interesting. A more lighter green, green blue, I guess it is. This is more bluish. This is more orangey red. So there is a variety there. Oh, I see. All of a sudden, I clicked on this red one, and it's giving me $211. Wonder why. This may be resin. That's 101. That's 101. Yeah. I see. Apologies, folks. Looks like the ebonites are $211. I'm not sure that I'm going to buy the pen at $200. The other ones, I thought this was ebonite, but it's not. This must be kind of a resin for $81. Kind of looks like the Admoc, a little bit different. Is it worth $81? Not sure. Not sure. They also mentioned that it's hard rubber ebonite peak. So is it a combination? I really don't know. I'm very, very curious. I don't know if any of you have seen this pen. Let me know if you have. Okay, so that's the Chinese pen front. What have I got? Pen Chalet. Okay, where is my Pen Chalet? Yeah, Pen Chalet. Here you have the new Viper. It's Viper, but this time in brown. Interesting color. Really like that color. I haven't bought that this Viper yet, but interesting, very tempting. Next thing is this the new Leonardo kind of a flower series. I don't like the new style resins that are coming out of Leonardo these days. Kind of this darkish, it just doesn't appeal to me. Because don't forget, I'm still looking for my Leonardo gold nib purchase. So that's something that I've been taking a look at. A gold spot. What do we have for gold spot? Gold spot, what I noticed that's interesting is this. I think this is a new Pelikan. I've never seen this Pelikan style fountain pen in neon yellow. They have it in neon blue. They have it in neon. I don't know what Pelikan style means, but it's a Pelikan, very cheap pen, $49. It has that kind of a nib there, as you could see. But this guy, I might go for $49. Why not? I might actually try this just to see if it's a good starter pen. So that's with Gold Spot. Now, what else have I got for you? Atlas Stationers. Where is it? Yeah, there's this new Narwhal Original Plus that's come out in these three colors, this kind of light blue, this yellow, this purple violet, and this just blue as compared to the old. I'm looking to do a kind of a review of different cheap vacuum fillers. Well, when I say cheap, modestly or low-priced vacuum fillers. And of course, this is one of the pens that I'm looking to buy to compare with some of the Chinese pens. So that could be interesting. So that I may very well, I might not go for these new ones, frankly. If I can find this gold black one, it appears to be out of stock at Atlas, but I'm sure I can find it elsewhere. I might actually buy that black and gold so we can do some comparisons. What else have I got for you? At Casa Stilografica, I hadn't seen this. This is the news. I think it's new. The Sailor, I guess it's Slint or Clint, colored stainless steel lantana pen with the 21 karat Sailor nib. So this might be an alternative. I'd have to see some reviews just to see how big this pen is, or am I getting a little pen? Am I getting a big pen? It is 459 euros, which translate into roughly 460, 470 American, and almost 600 plus Canadian. I'm not sure that I would buy it right now, frankly. At that price, I may have other priorities, but I thought I'd mention it in case you hadn't seen it. And then I have this Stilo Estile. You'll see a photograph of this new series, this Benu Pixie. It's a pocket pen. I think this is the first pocket pen that I've seen from Benu, but I may be wrong. So there you have it. That's what I found to be new. In terms of ink, there's nothing really new. There's some new colorverse that don't really appeal to me, and Ferris wheel press, but again, same old shitty bottles. Sorry for the expression. I'm not touching them until they change their bottles. So there you have it. Next segment coming up. Okay, so what's in the fountain pen therapy studios for this week? Well, first of all, I'll show you what I had during the week in this Giorgio, or I forget how they pronounce that name, kind of pen case. Let me go on my overhead camera and I'll show you. So this is what I had this week. Beautiful pen case, by the way. You get 12, 10, 6 and 6 with a soft in between to protect your pens. I had my Joya, I had a Diplomat, I had a Radius, Settimo, a Lamy Safari, this Majon C5. I had a Bexley Posthumous, my Montegrappa Mia Rollerball, my Peniter Modern Times Ballpoint, and my Mont Blanc pencil. So yeah, worked out really well. It was a busy week again, preparing for a trial coming up next week, and I'll show you the pens I'm going to be using during the trial in a second. So this is the Joya, beautiful nib. I had this nib modified when I ordered the pen. It's kind of a italic fine nib. I ordered the pen from Stilo Estile, and they offer the possibility of just doing a different grind, if you will, which is nice because that's one way of not getting just another boring Yowo nib, because this is another Yowo nib. Now there's a little bit of it kind of gets right there. You see that? It's scratching the paper, so I'm going to have to just give it a little smoothing there, but otherwise very nice. And it's really because it's italic, so depending on my angle, I have a tendency to write this way instead of nice and straight. So the italics sometimes do cause me problems. Then I had this Arrow. It's a beautiful pen. The nib, I mentioned this several times. The nib is, I don't know what they do with these Yowo nibs, but I think they're Yowo nibs. I forget if they're Yowo or Bach. I think they're Yowo. And they do something special to them in terms of fine-tuning them. Really nice tuning. So, very nice. In any event, what I'm going to do, so those were the pens. I'm going to use these pens to do my next segment, which is I'm going to do a paper notebook review. So rather than write with the same pens twice, I'm going to reserve these pens for that notebook review, and we'll show you how they write at the same time, and we'll do a comparison. We'll do all the different nib sizes here. along with the pencils and the rollerball and the ballpoint, and we'll compare two notebooks that I have for you. So put that aside for you. So that really was what I used last week. Here's my weapons for this week, so to speak. One second, let me just have my sip of my espresso. Yeah, what I wanted to do, what I want, I want parties looking at this on my desk. So hopefully I'll be able to distract the witness so you won't answer my questions properly, but just joking. All of these pens have been chosen for one particular reason. They have lots of ink in them, and they write nice and juicy, so they're not going to hard start on me. And here they are. So the first one is my Mont Blanc 149. This thing, you know, people say, Mont Blanc is overrated. I'm one of those. But you know what? At the end of the day, I hadn't used this pen in ages. And I am going to fill it up, by the way, because I don't know where we are at. But it was months I had used this pen, or weeks, you know. And, you know, I just picked it up, and look at that. It just writes. You know, it's a good writer. Never dries up on you. Never. You know, no matter how long you wait, this Mont Blanc. So, you know, the Mont Blanc 149, and I suspect the judge and the adversary on the other side will be using the same pen. There you have it. If my experience serves me well. I also have this Pilot Custom 823. Again, it is a broad nib, so you know, it's going to be fluid. It's not going to hard start on me. You know, Pilot Custom pens are just. By the way, I did a test with my smoke gun on these Pilot caps. Not a drop of air coming out of those things. Nothing. So this pen is a sure bet. I can pick it up. It's got lots of ink, so I'm not going to run out when I take my notes. And then, you know what? Speaking about pens that don't run out and then run smoothly, well, this is its imitation. This is the Wing Sung. Look at that. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a little bit finer. This is the Wing Sung 699. And I believe this is a fine or a medium. I think it's a fine nib, but a thick, fine nib. Writes every time. It's going to give me, it's one of my red, you know, pens, red ink pens. Sometimes red for me means, you know, kind of a highlight some aspect in your notes. Speaking of a nice writer, well, I've got this beautiful Majon. Again, lots of ink. It's a piston filler, and that lemon nib on this TI 136 is broad and juicy. So not going to run out of ink, and nice and thick. The notes will be nice with this one as well. If that wasn't enough, well, take out my Wing Sung 630. Look at this. I haven't used this in weeks. Just writes every time, so smooth. I think this is a medium nib. Yeah, it's got to be a medium nib. Nice and juicy. Really nice pen. You know, I meant to order, I think I need to order more of these. I need to order a red, a blue, a black. I mean, these things are perfect. Then I, you know, again, overdoing it, but another piston filler. This is the Asvine J16 with a broad Yowo nib. So again, 4 notes taking, quick note taking. This is going to be perfect. You know, I don't want anything fine, anything that doesn't flow on the paper, because my notes got to be taken quickly. What else have I got? I've got this Asvine C2000 number 8 size nib with this juicy nib. And now that I've solved the dry nib issue, You can see my videos. C2000, this is the 1.1 stub. It writes like a double broad. Maybe less line variation, but again, it's red, dark red. It will highlight, actually purple here. It will highlight anything in my notes. And lastly, if need be, this is my rollerball, newly acquired during the Atlas Stationers experience sale. So this is my Pelican. I guess they call it, they give it the same name. It's the M200 but it's a rollerball. Very nice. One of my best rollerballs. I mean, it writes like a nib. Really, really nice. So there you have it. Those are my weapons for this week. There we go. Very nice selection. And it puts me in the right frame of mind. You know, you're going into a trial. You know, you got a lot of stress and you want everything to be positive. Everything's got to be done. Everything's filed properly. Your notes are all typed out. Everything's gone. Your plan is executed to perfection. And you bring, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 perfect pens. And you're in the right frame of mind. You're going to use these pens as your weapon. And there you have it. Okay, just a little spotlight on the career there. There you go. So there you have it. That's the pens coming up for this week. So let me take another sip of my espresso and we'll come back with my next segment. Maybe what we'll do is, why don't we, no, I don't know what I'm going to do next. So stay tuned. Okay, so what's new in the fountain pen studios, fountain pen therapy studios? I keep making the same mistake. Well, you'll remember that last week I showed you a series of vintage pens that I bought at the North American auction. I know I got some criticism by one of my viewers saying that maybe I was unfair with North American auctioneers because there was a 25% premium that I didn't realize was going to be tagged onto the price. I'm not blaming North American auctioneers. Their prices were excellent. They're entitled to make a profit. I just, it was my fault. I was trying to blame myself. I wasn't blaming the auctioneers. They're entitled to make their profit, obviously. I guess 25% is the going rate. I don't know. But the pens were reasonably priced, so it wasn't exaggerated. No, I think they did their jobs. It's just I didn't read the fine print, and I'm blaming myself. So I ended up buying. When you bid and you win, you got to pay when it came time to pay. I realized all the prices were 25% cheaper. It was more expensive. So obviously I jumped a little bit because I spent quite a bit of money. But having said that, I'm not blaming them. So just clarify that. But let's take a look at the pens that I bought. I will go into my overhead camera. Where is it? Here we go. This is what I showed you. It hasn't changed from last week. And some of you mentioned that in these sacks, you got to check out if the sack is kind of soft. Because if it's this one's soft, this one looks okay. This one, it's a little thicker, but I think it's okay as well. This one appears to be soft as well. Okay, those are good. This one appears to be very stiff. So some of you have suggested that if it's too hard, the sack needs to be changed, but I'm going to see because I'm not sure I'm able to change. I'm going to have to teach myself. This one had no sack at all. I believe this is the one that had no sack at all. Yeah, this is it. And stupid me, I made a stupid comment. I said maybe we could. I thought about eyedroppering this, but said that this seal here is not perfect, so it would leak. But of course I can't eyedrop this. I mean, this is a liver filler. I mean, there's, everything's going to be spilling out like a lot of you mentioned, and that was a silly comment on my part. Some of these vintage pens also have these breather holes, which would leak all over the place. So forget about my comment. It was silly, and I agree with you. So there you have the pens. What I'm going to do now, I wanted to show you what condition they were again, and recognize some of the comments I received. I'm going to ink all the ones that can be inked and come back and show you some writing samples. Okay, so we're back with my new acquisitions, if you will, that I want to spotlight this week. First of all, here is my M2. I reviewed this week. I invite you to take a look at that video. A nice little pen, I got to tell you. We're going to do some writing samples again. One of the issues I had is that I did, again, test with this smoke gun, and there was a little bit of smoke coming out of this section here where the clip is integrated, and I thought perhaps it could be an indication of a dry nib issue. But I got to tell you, we're going to test it again. I tested it midweek, and it was just it was a gusher. We'll take a look at, I haven't tested it since. It's, I think I tested it Wednesday. It's now Sunday. We'll take a look to see whether or not this pen still performs. This is the Aurora Optima Nero, which I purchased from the Atlas Stationers Experienced sale, and it had a nib issue. So I think they mentioned scratchy nib as the issue. Well, let me tell you, I've inked this up, and I wanted to show you how it writes. I did some tinkering with that nib just to show you the kind of quality you still get, notwithstanding the comments, at a very good price. And these, of course, I just showed you these vintage pens, which I've inked up. Now, I got to tell you that those levers function really well. They're not loose in any way. We'll see if these pens write, and we'll see if it's, if they work in terms of filling up the pen. One issue is this material is a real pain in the rear end, because you just have to touch it a little bit with inky fingers. It'll stain the pen, and then you got to clean it up. So you got to be very careful. And talk about ink and staining fingers. Well, just another mention for my Lava heavy-duty hand cleaner. This is for those of you who don't know. This is the soap I use to wash my hands. I think mechanics use this this soap. It even has a moisturizer. I bought this on Amazon. Once in a while, I just mention it again in case you haven't seen this. Works really, really well. And this is my last bar, so I'm going to have to order another 4 or 5 from Amazon. But there you have it. In case any of you, especially the beginners, are wondering, it's a fairly good product. There's no perfect product, but this is fine. And it's better than putting your hands in chlorine or chlorinated Javel sort of water, because it's just going to mess up your hands. It really does have moisturizer, because I don't feel my hands drying up on me. It also works much better if you combine water with the soaping. The more water you combine with the soap, the more it washes out things. So there you have it. You always have your more stubborn inks, but Lava works fine with me. Let me know what your product is. If any of you use an alternative, let me know. Maybe there's something even better out there. So what are we going to do? Well, let's take out my swatch book, and we'll do some swatching. Tomoe River, as usual, lined. Okay, so now this one here, for all of those vintage nibs, vintage pens, I've inked them up with either Waterman, and we'll go through one on one, or this Iroshizuku Shinryoku, just because I figured these inks are not inks that are going to damage these pens or the sacks that feed these pens. So there you have it. So this one is with Waterman Brown. So let's see if it writes. I think these are all called Wilson pens, so we'll call it Wilson. Whoa, that's a real soft flexi nib to the point where, can you see that? I mean, really nice. It's even more flexy than my Magna Carta. And it's got brown Waterman. Yeah, this has got a flexi nib. Very nice. Whoa, a little bit of drop there. Things you see with these vintage nibs. They're not perfect. They're not like modern nibs. They're a little finicky, but they're fun to write with. This one here, okay, it's got the black. So I believe I inked this up with Waterman Serenity Blue. I'm just going to put black end. For this black end right there. Yeah, another fairly flex nib. I'm not good at these. But yeah, you can go from fine to broad if you know what you're doing. So again, very nice. Lots of fun to write with. But less flex than that brown inked pen. There you go. So far, so good. Then we got this other one with this purple end, and it's got Waterman Tender Purple ink. So purple ink to match the end. So again, Wilson. Wow, this is another flex. And I'm going to put purple end so I can distinguish them, because I don't know what names they have. So this is more of a medium going to a double broad. Very nice. Huh. I guess it's worth that 25% premium. All worth it. All these pens cost me $250 Canadian plus 25%, or maybe 200 plus 25%. I forget, but I got 5 pens, you know. So far so good. Very happy. And these are pens that I wouldn't typically write with these things on a daily basis. I would just use them for fountain pen therapy. You know, you've got the clip here that's moving a little bit, but that's okay. It's a vintage nib. And it's fountain pen therapy when I want to relax, take out my notebook, do some journaling, some fancy, a little more fancy writing. This is a big nib. I think this is the one that doesn't flex too much, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's just see. So I call this the Wilson. And just for my own purposes, I'll put number 8 nib. So I'll understand. And this one's got the Iroshizuku Shinryoku ink. Yeah, you know what? It goes from for those who know how to use these nibs, it's got more spring back. I would say to you, it's got a little bit. It's a soft nib. It's not as flexy as the others, but it does have a little bit of softness to it. There you go. Now, in terms of the one that doesn't have the sack, just 1 second. And that's where I might change the nib. It's this one here. This one, does it have a flex nib? Yeah, not bad. Let me just maybe ink it a little bit with Serenity Blue. Just dip it. Just to see how it writes. This is the Wilson. Now, this is stiff. It's a fine. I'm going to put, just so I know, no sack. I mean, you know, you could still get some line variation out of it, especially for those who know what they're doing with these calligraphy type of writing, like for example, a Shack MD can probably do tricks with this pen. Here you go, but very fine. Actually, it's probably an extra fine, but writes nicely. I'm just going to wipe that out. There we go. And that's the 5th pen. Now, I wanted to show you how did my 2 modern pens perform, or how are they performing. Here's the M2. So let's see if that dry nib issue that I think this pen may have, whether it's real or everybody in the comments said I have no dry nib issue with this pen. So let's test it out. So this is the, forget it, no dry nib here. Hongdian, wow. M2, gusher. A real gusher. It's supposed to be a medium, but it's writing like a broad. Very nice. You know what? I'm going to add it to my weapons for next week. Oh no, you know what? Maybe leave it aside and see if it, come back to it next week and see what happens. Now, Shanghai Dude said, well, does it have a new feed? I was made to understand that that's a new feed. It's a new number 5 nib and a new feed. But Shanghai can, if he's watching this, you can comment. It appears to be a new feed. And the breather hole appears to be on top there, not at the bottom. So there you have it. One comment I did get is that a lot of people don't like the fact that this thing will not get patina on it, and some of them have suggested they're going to kind of grind out or remove all the coatings so that this pen can just kind of take on a different color. Some of you don't realize that this thing is a push clip. So there you have it. So that's the M2. Now, what about my beautiful Aurora? How is this going to? Let me just make sure there's no residue of ink. Of course, these Optimas post beautifully, and they're probably meant to be written posted because they're a shorter pen. So this is the Aurora. What am I doing? I think they call it the Nero. Nero being black in Italian. It's supposed to be a fine nib, but the way I've played with it, it now writes, I would say fine medium, somewhere in between there. And it is smooth. It's got a bounce. It's 14 karat nib. And it's just 10 on 10. Brendan Schmidt, Atlas Stationers, bought this thing for $350 instead of $500-600. Worth every penny, folks. Every penny. These Aurora nibs, sometimes they come out, they're not perfect, but a little bit of fine tuning, and you get them to write. Look at this. Excellent. Man, am I happy. Really happy with this Aurora. You know what? We're going to add it to the tools for next week. Why not? Why not? And it is, frankly, it's a gorgeous pen. Leonardo. Yowo nibs. I can't. Anyway, I'm still looking. I know they've got those Finiche nibs. I'm still looking. When I get it, I'm going to be totally blown away. Hopefully, not there yet. So there you have the new pen hauls for Fountain Pen Therapy Studios. Stay tuned for my next segment. Okay, so next segment, which will be ink swatching. Now, I got to tell you, when I do these videos, I always start, in terms of taping, I always start with the ink swatching. So at the present time, it's 4:30 in the morning. I have my coffee. So it's a relaxing moment for me when I do the ink swatching, I got to tell you. So I kind of start slowly, even though this segment appears maybe further down the entire episode, if you will, of the recap. Perhaps revealing too many secrets here, but I don't think so. So this is the first. So if, I'm not speaking as quickly as I should, it's because it's the first segment. I'm just waking up, but I got to tell you, this thing just kind of sets the weekend for me. Do some relaxing ink swatching. I hope you enjoy it. So here's to you all. Have a little beverage. I hope you're having breakfast Sunday morning and enjoying this episode. Okay, so let's get to the ink swatching. First of all, you remember, and let me just switch to my overhead camera. You'll remember last week that we said that we will look at these Jinhao inks. I've got 6 of them here. Last week we swatched the black, the blue, and the green, and I promised that I would swatch this week the purple, violet, the red, and the brown. So let's get to it. We're going to be swatching these 3 inks. In terms of last week's inks, there they are on Tomoe River. Pretty straightforward, I would say to you. The green's got a little bit of shading there with some kind of lighter green, almost on yellow. Some slight shading on the Jinhao blue, and pretty straightforward Jinhao black, but a nice saturated black. It looks a little grayer on the swatch, but I would say to you that in the actual writing, it comes out really, really nice. Performs very well. These inks are not, they're not messy. They clean out really well as well. So if you're looking for a straightforward ink that appear to be fairly wet, well, there you have it. Those are those 3. So we'll put that aside, and we'll do the swatching for this week. Now, in terms of the paper we'll be swatching on this week, I've chosen 2, and they will be I'm going to do Samson Tomoe River, and we're going to be doing the regular Tomoe River. So those will be the 2. Okay, so let me all set it all up, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're all set. Got my pens, got my 3 inks, my swatch bottles, my swatching tools, which is my folded pen, and with my dip pen. So we're all ready to go. Let's start with first of all, the Jinhao red. Now, just a side note. Is it me, or does everybody, or does anybody have problems with red inks? I got to tell you, more and more the red inks are becoming my least favorite. Let me tell you why. I don't know, there's something in red inks that stain more, 1. 2, they clog up my pens. Now, originally I had bought this ink. It was a beautiful ink, Auto Ut Red Roses. It kind of smells like roses as well when you open the bottle. And the ink was just beautiful when you wrote with it. But that ink, I don't know, whatever was in it would clog up my pens. It would crust up the nibs, within a day. Just awful. You couldn't even, wash it out. In fact, let me just go back to my over at camera. This pen here, this Mayora, it kind of ruined the nib. It discolored the nib, that Red Roses. It clogged up the feet so bad that I thought I had cleaned out the pen, and when I came to turn the converter was blocked. It wouldn't suck up the ink. Why? Because I did not remove the feed and the nib, thinking that I could get away with it, and I thought I cleaned out the pen, but I didn't. Everything was clogged. And now even with this Jinhao, I've got like red all over. at my fingers. I don't know what it is. Me and red ink. Anyway, that's just a side note, a sidebar, if you will. It perhaps is just me, but let me know. Do you guys have the same problems with red inks, or am I just the one that unique in the area? Okay, so this is Sanson, and look at this. The Sanson feels like I'm on sand. Man, they've ruined this product. I got to tell you, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to swatch. I just want to see how it looks. It may look nice, but, I've done a shootout, and I'm doing a lot of, look at this. This is the original Tomoe River. It just so smooth. I can feel it's like sand here. Completely different. It's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. But this Sanson is not nearly... doesn't feel the same way at all in any event. Okay, so let me get my pen. Like I said, this is a Mayora. What is it? Parthenope, I think. I forget what they call this pen. And it's got a broad nib. So let me put on top here Sanson, Tomoe River. And this is the Jinhao red. Not bad, not bad. It's a broad nib, but I would say to you, it's not as thick. It's wet, but not 50-50. I would say it's not really the wettest ink. Okay, so that's on the Sanson. Let's see how it reacts. This is the completely different. Even I didn't use my dip pen. Maybe we won't use the dip pen. So this is Jinhao red. Yeah, much wetter, much wetter. Something's wrong with this nib. I think when I went to clean out this pen, I may have just slightly dislodged the tines. I can feel a little bit too much. There's a scratchiness there that shouldn't be there at all. Not on this nib. But it's writing fairly well. Yeah. I don't know how it's going to dry. And these inks don't have much effect, so you may not see a difference, but I can tell you in terms of writing, there's a definitive difference. Okay, next, let's do purple. Let's clean out that red. I mean, this red ink, maybe it's just getting on my nerves here. It's just all over the place. Okay, so this is... Yeah, look at this. I mean, I feel like I'm just swatching on sand. I feel like there's sand particles in the paper. And then when on the Tomoe River, it's just so smooth. Folks, don't use Sanson. Trust me on this. It's still a good paper. I can't... Vince, you're exaggerating. It's still a very good fountain pen friendly paper. It's all relative, right? So, okay, so this is the Jinhao. They call it purple violet. Yeah, not bad. Can't blame the paper here. It's more the ink. It's very smooth, actually. But this is because of this nib. This is a London Pen Company primary manipulation. I forget 2, 3, 4. I forget number. But the nib is a stipula. It's a stub, but it's like a .09 stub. It's not even 1.1. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful steel nib. One of my favorite stub nibs. Okay, let's do it on this one. Yeah, it's so much smoother. Just push that. Purple, violet. Yeah, wow. Definite difference. But there you have it so far. But in terms, these inks are not, they don't have a lot of effect in terms of sheening or shading, so you may not see a difference between the two. But nonetheless, okay, we're going to do brown now. But we'll see. We'll see when it all dries up. But in terms of feel, I can definitely tell you there's a difference with the two papers anyway. So this is brown. This does absorb a little bit quicker, I would say to you. Well, a little quicker. Look, take a look. Maybe not, because the inks are drying up much faster here. It kind of goes on really smooth. It's much smoother than this one. So you think that maybe it's penetrating quicker here, but not really. If you compare, this is much wetter than this one. This one's much wetter than that one. So I don't know what to tell you about the Sanson paper, but all I know is that I've got a bit left, and that's it until they... And, Albanichi's gone to Sanson now. People are complaining, and, it may not be as popular as it once was. This is the Jinhao Brown. Beautiful pen. This is the ST oversize with a nice, is it a 1.1? Yeah, 1.1 stub. I don't give enough credit to these Esterbrook pens, but you have one, they're all the same. Do I really need a blue one, a red one, a yellow one? It's a Yowo nib. It's a beautiful pen. It's got that nice springy closure mechanism where it keeps it all nice and wet, and it keeps away. It doesn't dry up quickly, the nib. But, do I need 6 of them? Right now I'm in another place. I'm really in another place. I'd rather get variety of brands and nibs than... I'm not a collector of the same pen in different colors, put it this way. That's what I realized. There's no point, for me anyway. But, mileage can vary, to each his own, and, I don't want to... criticize or discourage anybody. It all depends on, if you like a pen and it does give you therapy if you change up colors, you know what, all the power to you. That's what I say. Okay, so that completes the swatching. Let's take a few seconds to let everything dry up, and then we'll kind of do a more close-up comparison, see how it reacts on both sides, and see if there's any effect at all in these inks, or if they're just straight up standard inks. Be right back. Boy, taking a long time to dry. But on the Sanson, pretty straightforward, I would say, all the inks. But when you compare the two, in all fairness, I think the colors are a little more vibrant on the Sanson. It's a little bit like Cosmo Air Light. When you compare Cosmo Air Light to the original Tomor River, a lot of people mentioned that some of the inks just pop a little more on the Cosmo Air Light, and they certainly do on the Sanson. So if you're one of those people that enjoy a little bit of feedback, a little bit of tooth on the paper, Cosmo Air Light does it. You can get a little bit more tooth in for example, in Midori, and even regalia paper. there may be others that come to mind, then you'll enjoy the Sanson. And it is a little bit more vibrant. I just like the Tomoe River is just perfect. You know, Clairefontaine is too coated for me, in my opinion. Merriman, Limousine, the same thing. It's just very, very coated paper, kind of slippery. And you get Midori, Cosmo Air Light, and maybe even Sanson at the other end where it's very scratchy. And then Tomoe River is just like in between, in my view. That's at least my experience. I don't know how you guys see it. Let me know. But definitely, the colors are much more vibrant on the Sanson. In the back, you know, as you could see, well, let's forget about the swatching because it's thick ink, so you see a little more penetration there. But in terms of ghosting, pretty equivalent. I would say it's a little more on the Sanson than it is on the Tomoe River, just because I guess the ink pops out a little more. But there's really, when you talk about writing, there's really no spillage there at the back. But like every Tomoe River, it is thin 58 or 52, so you should expect some ghosting there, and you do. So there you have it. Now, things are drying up. As you can see, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I can see a little bit of gold sheen here and a little bit of gold sheen here. The brown is pretty straightforward. And that sheen, that little bit of contour, much less with the original Tomoe River. I see a little bit here, just a touch here, but otherwise I see a lot more on the Sanson. So there you have it. So, you know, if you like feedback, then maybe Sanson is the way to go. There you have it. Okay? Excellent. So that was my swatching. Stay tuned for my next segment. Okay, so for my next segment, what I propose is I'm going to compare two notebooks from LEUCHTTURM 1917, and we'll see how these two notebooks compare. So, to my camera. Here they are. So we have this is the LEUCHTTURM 1917 regular, and they've come out with this new one, LEUCHTTURM 1917, but this is the 120 gram. This one is less, supposed to be less fountain pen friendly, okay? I got to tell you, this is an old notebook. I haven't used it in years because everybody was saying that this is not fountain pen friendly, and that finally they've come out with a version that is, and stay away from this one. Maybe this one is better. Well, let's see how both of them react. And this is years later. I've taken out this one, and I've done some pre-swatching, if you will. Pre-swatching, writing samples that we will duplicate on this one. And I have a series of pens. I've also taken 3 swatches at the end here, and let's see how the two compare. I've got some comments on terms of how I felt, what the writing experience was like, you know, when I wrote. Here's the notebook. It comes with little pamphlets, information, a little bit of a sleeve here. That's okay. It is a hardcover as opposed to the other one. It's soft, same elastic band. Sometimes these bands are more a pain than anything else. You have it. It's kind of similar look. It's a little smaller. This is datum date, so you got a datum date on top, and it's a lined version. I took both of them are lined versions. So let's compare the writing experiences on both of these notebooks and see what it's like as we go along. The first pen that I used was my Joya Alaria. So let's start with that. Now this joinal area has a fine italic nib. And because it's italic, you know, it could kind of snag the paper. I'm fairly dry. It dries really quickly. Smooth with some feedback to be expected. It's an italic nib. Less of a flow than the old, if you will. And it's not as saturated. The two are not as, this one's much finer, not as punchy. So I don't know if it's an improvement or not. We shall see. Diplomat Aero. Medium nib. Less thick. Really dry. Quick drying as well. Thinner line. More feedback. And here it had a smooth, squeaky feedback. The radius. Here's my radius settimo, which has a Yowo broad nib. Oh yeah, much thinner line. Quick dryer. Boy, the ink just dries up really quickly. Little wet, but not very wet, whereas I have very wet here. Dries quick, really quick. Smooth. Hint of feedback. Whereas no feedback on the old paper. Flow is nice, but I would say to you, not as nice as on the old paper. So I don't know what this paper is going to give. We'll see. So far, not impressed, but maybe it's what we see on the reverse side that counts. Lamy All-Star 1.1 stub. Really dry, really dry. Barely can see the ink. It dries up real quick. Feedback. The flow. Not great. I feel like struggling to get the line down. Bexley. Where is my Bexley? This is my Bexley Prometheus. This has an italic 1.5 stub. Yeah, really dry. Dries up right away. Flow is scratchy. Feedback. I can hear it much more. Here I have smooth italic feedback. Here I just have feedback. It's real feedback. Montegrappa Mia. Let me just get it out. This is the Montegrappa Mia rollerball. Really smooth, I would say to you. Thinner line. Yeah. Much thinner than on the old paper. And I will finish with this Mayora Aventus, which is a red ink. Sometimes red inks kind of do bad things on paper. Now I'm not going to do too much here because thinner and there's feedback. So I want to do leave some space for the swatching. Okay, so that's that. Everything so far is thinner. I don't see a major improvement with regard to the writing experience anyway. Now, the first swatch I did, just to let you know, this red here is in fact Dieman oxblood. And it went on really, really quick, dried really quickly. I don't see any effect of the ink at all. That's, let me just open up the bottle so we can do this quicker. Okay. The next one is Iroshizuku Kujaku. Nice blue ink with some sheening in it. Okay. And the next ink is this messy ink, which I never use because it's so messy, which is Pannonia, the Kekfeni. Very messy ink. Usually gives a lot of sheen on Tomo River paper. No sheening, no nothing on this paper. And these things dried up so quickly. This one's drying up much, much slower. Okay? So, well, I guess it's to be expected. I'm not a technical guy. So is it because the paper is thicker? Is it because there's a different coating on the paper that doesn't allow it to penetrate as quick? I guess. There you have it. So let it all dry up and we'll just conclude. Okay, we're back. Taking a long time to dry, I can tell you. But let's start. First of all, like many people, I don't see any major, feathering, whether it's with italic nibs, the roller ball, whether it's with thicker. There's no real feathering, which is nice. It's a nice paper. This is the old 1917. Thick lines, dries up really quick. So if you want be able to write and not deal with long drying times, this is it. Except your inks don't get much love there. As you can see, there's absolutely no sheening of any sort. And these normally are three very, very fun inks, if you will. But there you have it. It's a well-performing, at least in terms of the writing experience, ink. What do we see on the other side? To be expected, I think you could see that the swatches have gone right through. With that radius Settimo broad nib, you could see some, a little bit of penetration there. See that? It's just not ghosting. It kind of went through. The same with, what's that pen? That's the radius Settimo, and this is the Bexley, which is that 1.5 stub. The red ink is okay, but you could see that it does a little bit come through, right? Just a little bit, but still much better than I expected. I've got to tell you, I wasn't hoping any salvage here. I knew that it was going to go right through, but the pens performed okay. But look, it's not perfect. Okay, so that's with the 1917. Now, This is the new one, the 120 gram. The line, no feathering. The lines are much thinner, and there's a little more feedback. Look at this. The ink is still trying to dry, but as you could see, it's giving me a lot more color variation and effects than the old version of the 1917. Let me just try to see if I could flip this to see what's on the other side. And look at that. It hasn't come through. So yes, it's a thicker paper. So for sure it performs in terms of see-through. There's no problem whatsoever. Okay, even with these messy inks. So bottom line is, it looks like it's a little more fountain pen friendly because it's thicker. But the writing experience, I find, is not as interesting as the old version. It's less smooth, much thinner. On the other hand, if you like a little bit of feedback, just a little bit, because it's still a pretty coated paper, okay? It's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. But much thicker. So, to be expected. I think it's a good paper. I think it's a good compromise. If you want to be able to write on both sides without any issues, well, certainly you have it here. It does show, the ink does show up. Look at that now. That Pannonia is drying up and that sheen is coming through. So is the sheen in the Iroshizuku, and the red is much, much punchier. So definitely an improvement. Definitely improvement. I personally like the writing experience better in the original, but there's a lot of see-through. There's a lot of see-through, but no feathering, which is good news. So there you have it. And it's a fairly good bound book or notebook. Maybe not as, I just like Tomoe River. The way the paper lands, the way the paper feels. This feels like you're writing on a cardboard sheet. It's so thick. But that's offset by price. I mean, Tomoe River Original and even Sanson is very expensive. And this again, I can never spell, LEUCHTTURM 1917 is much, much cheaper. So there you have the comparison, folks. So anybody asking what's that new notebook all about? Is it worthwhile? Yes. If you want more fountain pen friendly paper, it certainly is. There you have it. Stay tuned for my next segment. I think we're going to take a look at some YouTube video reviews. Stay tuned. Okay, so YouTube reviews. What have we got for you? Well, one thing I forgot to mention to you last Sunday, the 16th of February, was that on the following day, Monday, the 17th, I had been interviewed by Alexandra Richardson, and she advised me that my interview was going to go live on the Monday, February the 17th, and I forgot to mention it to you, but here it is. Let's go to the camera, just give you kind of a snippet of that interview, and I want you to listen to it because it goes through 20 questions and it gives you a little more insight into my fountain pen therapy modus operandi, if you will. And the 20 questions are really nice questions, and you get my points of view. So let me just turn on here, and we'll turn it on, and we'll let it play.
So when we talk about fountain pens, this is it. This is my sweetheart.
How did you get into pens?
How do I get into pens? As a young child, I'm much older than you are, but in grade school, we learned cursive with dip pens.
So there you have it. Just a little snippet. But please, lots of interesting questions. Alexandra has interviewed many people, and it was my turn. That interview had taken place actually in 2024, the end of the year, and she had mentioned to me it was going to play in February. So there you have it. So take a look at that. you might find something. I go through how I got into pens. What's my favorite inks? What would you suggest to a beginner in terms of pens? And it gives you a lot of insight into my own views on things, and it's interesting. Take a look at it. It lasts just a few minutes, and encourage her channel as well. And thanks again to Alexandra for that. Very, very nice, and it was funny seeing me being interviewed, but you know what? It was fun after all. So there you have it. Now, what else have I got for you? I've got this Mr. Inky Fingers. Put just a picture on. Reviewed the Aurora Talentum. I didn't realize how nice this pen is. And because, you saw my Optima Gold Sole Mio purchased in Italy. We're going to be seeing you saw my Optima Nero that I bought from the Atlas Stationers experience sale. And this Aurora Talentum is really tempting me, especially this Black Ops pen. So it's something that I'm looking forward to trying to dig up, maybe find one used at less price. Next thing I wanted to mention is Inquiring Minds. I mean, there's nobody like this guy. I mean, there's Doodlebud and there's Inquiring Minds when it comes to technical issues. He, in a few short seconds, unlike myself, found a solution to the C2000. And essentially what he said is when you uncap the top, you see there's a little hole. Well, you gap that hole and screw it back on. Tells you what materials to use, tells you how to go about it, tells you how to do it, and just a few minutes you have a solution. So anybody who's, again, wants to revisit the Asvine C2000 and wants maybe a quicker way of doing things, take a look at this video, Inquiring Minds. Then I have Karina Loves to Plan. Here it is. There's, these 8 pen questions that had taken place in 2023, 2024, and now there's an additional number 8 or another 8 more pen questions 2025, and they are as follows. Do you have different uses for different pens? How do you choose the inks and pens you will use next? Which pen do you prefer for longer writing sessions? What is your all-time favorite pen? If you have to choose one nib size, which would it be? What is your favorite nib grind? If you could only use one ink for the rest of your life, what would it be? What is an absolute deal breaker for you for a pen and for an ink? And then she had a bonus question. What is one pen everyone should have? So there you have it. Interesting. See what Karina Loves to Plan has to say about that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these 8 questions on my next recap, or maybe I'll do a full video on it and I'll give you my answers to these and maybe participate in this 8 more pen questions 2025. There you go. Let me know if that interests you. If not, we'll do it maybe in a recap, but and if not, let me know why not. But I may do it anyway. There you have it. It gets me going, gets me talking, it gets me to review pens, inks, paper, so it's okay. Now, in terms of my own videos, well, we have my recap of last week, which is interesting because now the recaps have always got some features, so they're not recaps that only deal with the very punctual week, if you will. There's different things that are being reviewed there. There's inks, there's notebooks, there's pens. So look at the feature items, and those feature items might interest you. Take a look at the timestamp, and you can watch the video that way. I also reviewed, as you know, and as I mentioned, the Dieman M2 video. What's coming up? Well, we've got my showdown or shoot down of notebooks review. We're working on the review for the Dieman pens, a kind of a look at all my collection. Several of you have indicated that you'd be interested. I've got my Cypress pen that's coming up, the review as well. I'm also thinking about, I mentioned this earlier, thinking about doing a a comparison of low-priced or reasonably priced vacuum fillers. And of course, the Chinese pens are going to be featured there, and we're going to compare them to some others. You know, compare them to the Narwhal. We can compare them to the Twisby, etc., etc., and maybe even compare them to some of the more expensive ones. So I'm working on that as well. We've also reviewed the Radius Settimo, which will be coming up soon, and I've also reviewed the Stipula Lucence Green with the flex nib. That should be coming up soon as well. So there you have it. That's what's coming up in my videos. Okay, so there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed that for February 23rd, 2025. That was my weekly recap. I enjoyed doing it. It's now, I've been at it since 4:30. It's now about 9 o'clock. So we've managed, 4 hours to get this thing done without the editing. This is just the taping. Just to give you an idea of how long these things take to put together and wash out the pens. And that includes everything, all the preparatory time. I had to, wash some of the pens, take out all the inks, set things up, etc., drink my espresso, relax. But 9 o'clock, it's done. Now what's going to happen, I'm going to take all these different segments, take them to my editing station, because this is my YouTube, this is where I tape my stuff, the recap. Then I have 2 more stations. I have the station where I do, those opening videos with the pen circling and with different statutes, etc., etc. That is in a separate area. And then, of course, I've got my editing station with my, big computer and big screen, etc., and I do all my editing. The editing will probably take me another, between 1 and 2 hours, I would say, at least. My editing is not as complex as, for example, our friend, Hemingway Jones. He goes through all kinds of loops. Congratulations to him. But, I still have to put all these segments together, cut out what's not right, correct what's wrong, etc., etc. So there you have it. That's essentially how I put things together. Please subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down. Let me know why. Comment, always welcomed. I hope you enjoyed that. Have a great, great week. I know my week is going to be full of surprises, and we'll see you back here sometime soon. Take care.